We recently, just in the last few weeks, had an opportunity to go up and pick up our new 59 in Seattle and bring it down the coast. And we put together a plan where Jeff Leishman, the designer, myself, Dave Harlow, our project manager, and Doug Harlow, our video guy, we're going to bring the boat on down the coast. The boat had been up there for a few months, so it required a little bit of a look over and oil change, main engines and generators, and a bit of a cleanup and some provisioning, and we prepared the boat for about a 7-day trip down the coast. We departed Elliott Bay in the afternoon, a little earlier than what we anticipated, and we ran for Port Townsend. Stopped in Port Townsend for the night, anchored, and then fueled the boat, topped off our tanks in the morning, and departed Port Townsend on out into the Straits of Juan de Fuca. There was some small craft advisories, wind coming down the straits. These were short, steep seas, and the boat handled it beautifully. So we ran down the straits of Juan de Fuca and made our turn to the south at Cape Flattery, and had real nice weather conditions. Our plan was to, making only one stop, we were going to run about 10 knots, which we reckoned was going to be a fuel consumption of a little over 10 gallons per hour. And that's where we ran. It was extremely comfortable. The boat with 4 people aboard was terrific. We had provisioned the boat quite well with some good food, and proceeded the first couple of days to have a really fantastic trip. So the weather was very, very nice once we got out of that westerly wind coming around Flattery through the straits, and proceeded south and had a good forecast. We had clear skies, pretty mild temperatures. It was just typical July weather coming down the coast. Really very, very nice. And thing was, 10 knots, we were right exactly on the money in terms of our consumption. We were actually running along most of the time showing less than 10 gallons an hour. We were at 4.8 on one engine, 4.9, and we were making 10, and I think maybe we possibly were getting a little bit of help from a kind of a south setting current. About the middle of the second day, we started to get a forecast on down the line of a little stronger northwesterly winds. They were forecasting 25 to 30 knots with gusts of 40, but all coming from the northwest. So we proceeded along, and I think it was the second afternoon, the wind started to pick up from our stern, and we were, real happy with the way the boat was performing. The seas were building up, coming in underneath us. Autopilot was steering the boat beautifully. During that night, it did blow quite hard. We didn't have an anemometer on the boat, but I think it probably was reaching the forecast of 40 knots, and seas built up pretty good, 10, 12-foot seas, rolling under the stern of the boat. And again, the boat, we couldn't have been more pleased with the steering qualities of the boat, because that's really the area that when you have a semi-displacement boat that can run, the 18, 20 knots, your area that you'd be most concerned with is your down swell, directional control, and handling in heavy seas at reduced speed. We had kind of made a decision that at daybreak we were going to try to go into Fort Bragg, and we wanted to come in, well after sun up. Fort Bragg is a classic, Northern California, a bar crossing type harbor, a natural harbor where there is a bar, and so we went ahead and did it, and I felt really comfortable with this boat. The boat has the large rudders, terrific directional control and authority down swell, but it has it has a steering system. It's made by a company called Hypro, and it's a electric hydraulic system that is kind of a fly-by-wire system. A lot of the premium builders are using this system. It relies upon an electric motor and hydraulics to steer the boat, but you do have a complete backup autopilot system, which has its own electric hydraulic system. So there is, and of course there's an emergency tiller on top of that, but this thing works like nothing I've ever seen before. And so running into the bar, the seas were, not breaking, nothing big, but you still had some seas on either side of you and coming up astern. You could advance the throttle and speed the boat up and with very quickly move the rudder from port to starboard, just with one finger spinning the wheel. And I just felt a level of control that was real comforting. I feel like, if you did have 10-foot breaking seas, that you could get ahead of those seas with the power that we had, and then with the rudder control and the authority of the steering. It made me feel very, very comfortable going in to Fort Bragg, which is actually a very narrow entrance. It's shocking a bit for someone that's never done a harbor entrance like that. Came in without any problem, and it was actually quite easy. Came underneath the bridge of Highway 1 there at Fort Bragg. It's a pretty spectacular little marina with basically little warehouses and fish processing plants on either side. Fishing boats tied up, and we came on into the one kind of commercial marina that existed there, and we came to find out that the actual marine fuel dock was farther up the Noya River. We had a fairly low tide at that point, and we had plenty of fuel. We had 350 gallons of fuel left. So we decided that rather than risk going up the Noya River, we would turn back right around and run on back out and run on down to Bodega Bay. So by the time we got fuel in Bodega Bay, this was going to be our last stop, and we're going to run straight on through to Dana Point. We left Bodega about 6 o'clock in the evening, and again ran our speed at that 10-knot range, anticipating we'd be arriving in Dana Point late in the day on Monday. And the weather had kind of settled down now that those stronger northwesterly winds that we had experienced around Cape Mendocino had settled down, and nothing but a great forecast from that point forward. So, running along at 10 knots, we had all settled into the boat well. We had, full fuel tanks. We'd been eating well. And we talked a lot about just the general comfort level of the boat, how well the steering station and the salon worked. I mean, we've been advocates of pilot houses, and I am, for, longer passages, night watches and so forth. But the steering station, we never steered the boat from up on the flybridge. Some of us went up, sat up there during the day, but we never felt for docking, for visibility, for anything other than just getting up into the breeze and enjoying the flybridge. We never felt like we needed to be up there to safely operate the boat. People were coming and going from the galley, and up until maybe, it wasn't getting dark until 8:30, 9 o'clock, so TV was on. We were watching TV, in the salon. It wasn't a bother to the watchstander. And then during the night, kind of lights went down, and we didn't have any reflection issues or anything unpleasant at all about operating the boat from that location. From about Malibu south, we ran the boat up to 16 knots and ran hard, coming 16, 17 knots, ran hard all the way into Dana Point, and got into Dana Point about 12:30 in the afternoon. It was a really great experience for Jeff and I and Dave to see the boat firsthand. It gave us confirm the level of confidence that we had in the boat. I wouldn't, we could have refueled the boat and Dana Point and been out of there within a couple of hours, and I would not hesitate at all to be headed down the coast of Mexico for points south. And the boat has that capability to comfortably and easily run, anywhere in North America, down through the Panama Canal, across the Caribbean. On this particular trip, we were pushing it a little bit harder, at that 10-knot range, and we did burn with our diversions into San Simeon and then hard running the last 15 hours or so of the trip. We consumed about 1,400 gallons of fuel. Our mileage was about 1,200, but it confirmed everything that we knew, that if you slow this boat down, in that 10-knot range, you're pretty close to a 1,000-mile range. If you slow her down to 9 knots, you're going to be up in the 1,200-mile range. If you want to go down to 8 knots, your range is going to pick up into the 1,600 nautical miles. So it definitely has the capability to make good speed on fairly significant coastal passages, and we couldn't have been more pleased with our perception of the boat and how the boat ran, how it handled, and virtually every aspect of it.